All right, welcome back, everybody, to Absurdum, our supposed to be monthly podcast. It's been 2 months since our last podcast, but we have something special today.
Very
so
special.
normally we do this kind of thing over Skype or whatever non-trademark voice over IP communications, but today I've managed to get everybody involved in the same room in France. So, I'd like to reintroduce my girlfriend here.
It's me.
and,
It's her.
and my fellow co-host here, Alex Adams.
It's me. And I actually think we can prove indefatigably, without a doubt, the fact that we're all in the same room. Give me a high five, buddy. You hear that? Yeah, I can see it right now on the signal. That's an official high five. We didn't fake that. It's real. We're in the same room. I'm here in Strasbourg.
If we open the window and an ambulance goes by, you'll know we're in France because the sirens sound different. Look it up. Which brings us to our topic. So, episode 10, we are going to be talking about languages. So, a little background here. Canada's second language is French, but 95% of the country speaks English, and but French is very important in school and like if you work for the government. But outside of that, it's pretty isolated. But obviously in France, their first and only language is
French.
Yeah, Belgian. Flemish. Yeah. So anyway, for my personal background, I've been learning French, trying to communicate better with my girlfriend, with people in this country that I'm living in. And Alex here has been going a different route.
Yes, so to sort of crank it back, the original story of this is I read a book a couple years ago by Norman Deutsch called The Brain That Changes Itself, which sort of changed my life in a lot of ways. It was his neuroscience book. Norman Deutsch is a neuroscientist. It's in a very positive light, and he talks about how the brain is plastic, the idea of neuroplasticity, which is sort of filtered down now into modern nomenclature, into schools, into sort of, I suppose, like politics might be using it, definitely in the medical field. And his whole bent was the idea that the brain can change. The brain can change structurally, and the things that you know are not necessarily set in stone. And this sort of really opened my eyes to how I could improve myself. One of the big things he talked about was how you could prevent illnesses like sort of degenerative neurological illnesses like Alzheimer's or dementia by learning a second language in adulthood. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I'm a bit of a sadist when it comes to like self-improvement. So like I picked up, it's like, oh, I'm going to learn an instrument. I picked up the violin. I actually put that instrument down, sorry all the violin players, but it had no frets. It's a very hard instrument. So the language that I chose to learn, I wanted it to be something that had nothing to do with English, something that if you looked at it, you were like, what is this? Like, you couldn't even see like a B or an A or traditional like Latin-based language. So I chose Arabic. So for all you listeners out there, you're like, what? But it's been a couple years. I can't say that it's been going like the best. I have made some leeway, but it really sort of opened my eyes to a whole new world of the language.
Sorry, whole new world.
Aladdin. My favorite movie.
This episode has been brought to you in part by.
Yeah, this is
Really
sponsored
wonder why
by.
you chose Arabic after all.
Have we been bought by Disney? That'd be great. And also opened my eyes to like the culture of the world that spoken language, but also the culture of language learning. And I've been looking at a lot of polyglot YouTube channels. A polyglot, someone who speaks like 7 or more languages fluently. And so that sort of brings us all here because Juliet here is a true bilingual, and I think Dallas, you are too, because I saw you talking to that.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Come on, I think you should have seen him talk about witches in a bakery the other day. It was like, what is the specific relevance of the witch iconography in this? Like literally some $5 words. I am not a true bilingual, but I'm not a false beginner either. I haven't stopped learning Arabic. But that's sort of, we're all here to sort of discuss like the elements of what it takes and what are the mechanics and how it changes the idea of learning a second language.
Do you want to give some background for your trials,
language journey?
It's pretty simple. I'm French, so I was born in France. I learned French. French is my mother tongue. And as pretty much every French student from the age of let's say 11 to 18 minimum, we all had like to learn English in classes a few hours per week. And let's say that you get a decent-ish level, you can go in a bakery, ask about witches if you want to.
Yeah.
But honestly, after a while, it's pretty much like everything, you lose it. You were like, use a few words here. It's easier with English because you find it pretty often in a lot of different
TV,
situations. Yeah, we stole words. Obviously, we even steal like like in words, like we know about fake news. It's 2 words, but we know them. For example,
fake news.
so there's that. Of course, with meeting my amazing boyfriend, I had to work a little more on that, and I assume that I'm doing a decent enough job.
Neither of you two knew a lot about the other person's language before you met. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, we both studied it in school, basically, and we both could say, like, simple choice phrases. And we kind of knew, I guess, the structure of each other's language, like lots of rules in one and lots of exceptions in the other.
We'll dive into that later.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think it's pretty safe to say that when we first met, it's like, what, 3 and a bit years ago. And at that time, time you could, like, maybe you were just shy, or maybe you were shy because of where you were in your language, but it seemed like the most you were able to say was like a sentence at a time, 1 sentence for every paragraph of mine in English, and that sentence was often half of it was like grammatically correct, and the other half was like almost there. Is that about where you were?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I wasn't bad, because obviously otherwise I wouldn't even have started talking to you.
No, but
it's always difficult when you're confronted to someone that speaks a different language that you are learning, and like especially for someone like me, because I hate being like off, and I just rather not doing the thing at all than being not perfect.
Yes.
So it was a really work in progress around that.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, the last time I'd really looked at French was, at that point, it was about 5 years before, no, more than that, 7 years before, in high school. And in high school, I was as close to being like fluent as you can be in high school. In Canada, we have like French immersion, where like everything is taught in French, like even math class and stuff like that. But I didn't take that. I took like just the 1 class of French a day, but I was pretty good. But then you don't need to use it in a lot of places in Canada. So how about you, Alex? Like, where did you get your start with Arabic?
Well, I read this book, like I said, and I just decided to. Originally, it was going to be, and this was very sort of like, not say egoistic of me, but just like maybe overreaching. But I wanted to learn Arabic, and I also wanted to learn Mandarin. But Mandarin, like both of these. So a little sort of side tangent here. I think it's not CSI, not FBI either. What's the other one? Center for Investigation in America.
CIA?
Thank you. I believe the CIA or some other American body has a.
You're mentioning Arabic and the CIA in the same podcast. Hashtag arrested.
Well, interestingly enough, that is a language of significance to the FBI.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a spy, ladies and gentlemen, you should learn either Russian, Mandarin, or Arabic. But there's a hierarchy of power and difficulty with all languages that are associated with a native English speaker. I don't know how that would relate to a native French speaker, but it basically ranks all these languages, and you've got like sort of level 1 languages, which are like German. French is there too. I think level 2 is like Pashto, Farsi.
It's a jump. Completely recognizable to, I can't name a single word in those languages.
Farsi's not as difficult as Arabic. Actually, it's a similar grammatic structure and things like that. But like the level 3 languages are like Russian, Arabic, Mandarin, and actually there's only one level 4 language. Can you guess it?
Finnish or Icelandic?
No, I think that's just a level 3. I might be wrong about that. I frequently am, but the only level 4 language is
Australian Outback.
Gavna, Japanese.
Ah.
So for all you weeaboos out there, you gotta really. Anyway, side tangent over. I decided to learn Arabic just because it looked like Lord of the Rings. It sounded so cool. It was like, to me, it was like mysterious. It was powerful. It's the language of this huge religion. Yeah, absolutely. It's there's like over 1 million native speakers all over the world, and it's like this politically and religiously significant language because you hear, like, whether or not you like it or not, people get exposed to Arabic all the time. Like, you're seeing the news and you're seeing like this frightful man and he's like shouting Arabic. It's like, oh my god. Or like you're seeing like, news around the world of like political associations of countries. So I'm like, this is like a good idea. And also, interestingly enough, and this is super embarrassing, but back in the day with, I think it was SNL or might have been Mad TV, I think it was Will Sasso had a really good Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. You know how he sounded like? He'd be like, and I knew I was really good at nailing one of the chief phonemes in Arabic, which is ayn, which is the like a muallim, which is teacher in Arabic. It's the and I knew, I'm like, and that's what, when I started reading these language learning books, they're like, okay, listen, you're gonna be able to get by if you can do here are all the sounds, but here's this one special sound. And if you can't nail this sound, you'll be fine. But like, just like there's like a little stop sign icon. It's like, whoa, wait up. You're gonna have some trouble down the road if you can't nail this sound. So I started reading some books. I started reading a really interesting language learning book, which I'll bring up in a minute. And I just I audited a class in university. I started reading some books. And again, I don't want, like, caveat here. I'm not good. I'm not good at, like, if some gentlemen out there, ladies and gentlemen out there, if you are Egyptian or if you're Tunisian or whatever, you're from Iraq, don't message me in Arabic, don't email me in Arabic, don't come up to the other street. I'll, be very polite, but it's a work in progress, and that's sort of where I'm at now as an ability.
Yeah, fair.
Do you have like hours in a week that do you take courses? Do you like learn it with like some website or?
Oh, I wish. It's definitely one of those things where, we want to, like, I want to improve. I have a goal. I want to get to that goal, and that's definitely a really good structure. Like, that's a great tool to use. I just need to implement the bloody thing. Like, I have to have like Tuesday night to be like Arabic night. That's, for those of you listening, that is a great, you got making your own. I'll put it this way: we get up. Except for you bastard, because you work from home. We get up every day, and we, hate it. We go, we brush our teeth, you grab breakfast, drive down, whatever. Like, the clock is ticking on us to get to work. And then we get to work, and it's like, oh, okay, fine. And it doesn't matter if you have a headache, you're sick, whatever. To implement those parameters in our social life, in our leisure world, in our world of like self-improvement, that's like, if you can nail that, ladies and gentlemen,
we have an episode about that, so if you haven't listened to that, go back and check out
episode 6, I believe.
Yeah, balancing your work and your work life and your life.
Yeah. Work-life integration and work-life balance. So to answer your question, no, unfortunately not. But again, like, want to work towards that.
I think another obstacle you're running into is the fact that the language you chose is so much different from English, because, like, anybody who's been on the internet in the last few years and has even given any thought to learning languages may have learned of the website called Duolingo, DuoLingo.com, and they
give us money.
They do free language learning. You select the language you want to learn, and then it basically does like kind of like flashcards and like kind of these little simple games that gets you through it. But Arabic, I don't believe, is on that website, especially because any language that uses a what is it, Roman, Greco, whatever, Latin, any that doesn't use a Latin alphabet, they're slow to implement. They're working on it, but I mean, I think Russian is there and it uses the Cyrillic alphabet, but I don't think Arabic is there yet. So that's another barrier you're running into. It's not like you can just go to that website and make like I'll do a lesson a day or whatever.
It's even more difficult when you consider Semitic languages, excluding Hebrew, because Hebrew still uses a discrete alphabet where the letters are like, for instance, you can I'll put it this way, you can have an acronym in Hebrew. It's very hard to have an acronym in Pashto or Farsi or Urdu or Arabic because the letters are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who want to do some light Googling, in fact, the letters actually, each letter has its own form in 3 different ways. It can start a word, be in the middle of the word, and end a word. So the initial, medial, and final words are all different kind of symbols, which is, which is super nuts. But let's jump into this. Let's dive right in here. You two fell in love. Aw, it's adorable. And you learn languages from each other, which ties right into one of the most important elements of choosing a language that you want to learn or strengthening a language that you already know, which is emotion. You have to feel something, which is why I fell out of favor with French so quickly, because I didn't really, my teachers, and also I was implicit in this, didn't really get, I wasn't really hooked at any point. I didn't have a really charismatic French teacher who pulled me into the world of French. Now that I'm in France, I'm starting to feel like this emotional connection because I'm seeing this whole world, this rich texture of culture. But for those of you who want to learn a language or want to pick up a language, the first rule that I've heard all over the place is find one that you actually want to speak, and you have some sort of emotional connection of oh, I like when I heard Arabic spoken, and when I saw it in text, I'm like, that's so cool. You need that coolness factor.
Yeah, and I think one step after that is that you have to have a reason to be committed to that language, because
commitment is everything.
I had a cool French teacher in high school, and we would speak French. She was also my cross country coach, so I'd speak to her in French on the field, and everybody would look at me like, what are you saying? And we spoke French all the time. But after high school, I went to university, and there were many other people speaking many other languages. French was not one of them. So I just stopped speaking French. And in Canada, all the products are labeled, all the products you buy in a store are labeled in French and English. So I still I knew what certain words were, but I just fell out of it conversationally. So yeah, you're right. I think obviously you have to have some kind of emotional attachment to it, and then you have to have a way to keep yourself committed to it.
Absolutely.
Because even with us, a while ago, we made our kind of working language English so that she could improve on her English, and so it was easier for me to communicate without having to think too hard. And now I would say we're at the point where we need to kind of switch it back to make more of our language, our working language, French, because I can ask a single question, and then if someone wants a heated debate, it's no, merci, whereas with her, she's very fluent, as you can hear. So, we have an emotional connection for the language, but now I need to commit to it. And I've been slowly, bringing it back. Insert Justin Timberlake or whoever did that song. I don't know. But I mean, I've been working on it. Yeah, I've been working on it. Yeah, I've been working at it more academically, and I need to work at it more every day.
The consistency.
Yeah, you can't just rely on the teachers to basically teach you anything, everything, because for example, when I started, my first English teacher when I was 11, she was horrible. She was the worst. She was just basically giving us a little page of comics, and she was like, okay, so you're gonna learn all this by heart. We had no idea what it meant, and then you're gonna come in front of the class and play it with your classmates. Jeez. And we have literally no idea what we were saying. We're it was the first month or whatever, and we were saying sentences with future tense. We had no idea what it was. We for example, you don't learn all that in the first month of learning English, and that disgusted me from the language. At the end of the year, I was this is horrible. I hate English so bad that I never want to learn it. This is terrible. And also another example is that they gave us English courses at university, which was I don't know 2 years ago for me, and I was already fluent enough And the problem I encountered here is that all my classmates were having I don't want to say bad because they weren't bad, but they had like the regular level, and I was obviously above them, not them.
Yeah.
I was above it because I'm practicing every day with him and with like all the friends and stuff. So, and this teacher just like kept like pulling me down all the time, and it was horrible because not only you're super bored in class, you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, but either I know all this, or if you want to say something, it's like, yeah, but it's my job to do it, you know, the teacher. And I understand it. It wasn't her problem. It was me that wasn't at my place in here, but I had no choice. I had to attend this class. It was horrible from start to begin. And like even for redaction works, I don't know, it's like essays.
Okay.
Yeah, like I had the same notes at the same grade, sorry, as the best other classmates I had.
Yes.
And we obviously weren't at the same level, and it was not because my content was bad, because obviously it was about space, and I worked it with him, so obviously it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I really worked hard on it to get a good grade and be like, prove myself, be like, I can be amazing, I can make a flawless essay. And I still had like 13, I don't know what it is in letters, but it's not that.
Out of 20?
60.
Yeah, out of 20.
65%, so like a C+.
Flex that math muscle.
Yeah, and I don't think I deserve a C+. No. I was a little, like, whatever. I'm out of university soon enough.
I think you came to me once or twice and was like, what does this word mean? And I told you, and you're like, well, that's what I said. I think there were times where your teacher questioned your usage of a word, and I was like, no, you used it fine.
Yeah, she basically went to the point of like, I remember I wrote satellite with 2 T's because that's the way we do it in French, and you only have one. Mm-hmm. And she basically like crossed it, and I'm sure like she removed the point for that. She also removed the point for the date because I didn't write it like the way she wanted, but it was the correct way. Yeah. And it was like, ugh. You can't. So all that to say that you cannot only rely on teachers, like they both said. You need to find another attached to it. You need to commit yourself to this. And if you're not ready, or if you don't feel like you're able, it's like going to the gym. You don't pay a monthly
membership.
Yeah, if you're not going to do it. It's the same. Just don't even bother if you're not committed, because maybe if you're committed the first few months, you'll learn a few words of like the basic of the language, and then you're not only gonna stop and not progress anymore, but you're just gonna lose everything you learned. That's what happened with me in German. I had German classes for like, since we're like super close to Germany, I had more German classes than English classes. Mm-hmm. Like they start, like some start when they're 3, like, and then up to university. But I have a decent German, but when you consider that I've had like 15 years of German behind me, I am like terrible. Yeah. I'm garbage at German.
Why do you think I'm so hard on myself for being like not more fluent in French? Because I've had like the same amount of time with French, but then it fell out of favor, and I'm just rebuilding it now.
Yeah, and I love German. German is an amazing language, and obviously I could make an effort, because I could use it every day, since I'm like 10 minutes to Germany, but.
It definitely ties it. You definitely need a goal. Like you need to like, how well do I want to speak this language, and then how much, like success. You find what you find out how much it takes, what the price is, and then you pay that price. Mm-hmm. So like, do I want to be? It would take. There's this element, this principle called the Pareto principle, which is like the 80-20 principle. I think I've mentioned this before, but you can get away, and I spoke to you about this yesterday. You can get away with about 80% of another language situations with about 20% of the words and the structure. And it's like, well, how, is that your goal?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are tourists here right now, and you're going to be going off to other parts of France without us. So yeah, body language, establishing, like, knowing what the situation is. We joke, like, If you go to buy something, just wave money at them and point at the object you want.
Which we've been doing to great success.
Yeah, if you want to know where the bathrooms are, you just need to know that they're called toilette in France.
Which is almost the same word
And
as
if
English
you-
anyway.
And if you just say that with a question mark at the end, someone will point you in the right direction, right? So you're right. Like with about 20% of the knowledge of a language, you can get by 80% of the situations, as long as you're the instigator of the situation.
Yeah.
Because if somebody comes up to you, like, and you're like, no.
Or left.
Do you want to live today or not? No.
Oh no! I wanted to mention, however, because your experiences in the education system related to language learning ties in very, very aptly to how a language is learned most effectively, which, unfortunately, being a teacher, it's hard to say this, does not happen in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It is not, a classroom environment is not the best place. It's a good place to learn a lot of things, not necessarily the best place to learn a language. You brought up two situations, and one which was struggling to keep up, and the other which you were blowing way past all of your peers. And first off, you want to be in the middle of that. Firstly, you want to be in a situation where the limit of your understanding at that moment is being tested to its max, and you're not into the realm of anxiety where things are going too fast and you're too scared, and then
So like anybody taking a math class, yeah.
Yeah, but except for you, where things are going too fast, and if it's in a classroom environment, and maybe if you feel like maybe not in a growth mindset that day, that your skill set is set in stone, and maybe you want to protect your idea of you as being a competent person, you shut down and you don't want to learn anymore. So you just shut down. You don't say anything. You don't put up your hand. You don't speak. Or you're way ahead of everybody. You're bored. You're listless. So between boredom and anxiety is the area you want to go. Your teacher docked you marks for dates. I can't think of a single time so far in France that I had to produce an accurate date. And we've been moving around. We've been exchanging legal tender. We've been buying things. We've been talking to people. I ask for where the toilet is. There is this pervasive problem in the way a language is structured in a curricular sense. So I'll posit this question. How often do you how often would you mention your mom or dad in conversation? In talking, like introducing yourself?
Well, introducing yourself, like, never. I mean,
No.
It's not. You're not like, I am Dallas, son, from the land of Canadian.
Yeah. I'll posit it this way. There is a huge power gap between how often someone brings up their mom and dad and how often someone brings up their uncles and cousins. In the same way, there's a big power gap between how often someone asks for an apple or a banana and how often someone asks for a kumquat or a pineapple. And I bring this up because the way it is easier for a teacher to group words together is not how effective it is for a language to be learned. And there's a solution to this. Unless you're taking a class in a classroom, which is fine because you're exposing yourself to the language, but rather than chunking all of these words together, high frequency words and super low frequency words, just because they fit into the same life category. Like we've got a couch here. What's couch in French, if you don't mind, Julia?
Canapé.
Canapé?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is in Arabic. But there's a couch, but there's also, I don't know, like floorboards or
TV stand.
Yeah, TV stand. Perfect idea. Lampshade. How often do you move that lampshade for me? Yeah. So the point I'm getting at here is you want to start. If for those of you who are jumping into a language, avoid at all costs wasting your mental energy, because we talked about how skills atrophy over time. You learned a bunch of stuff, you learned a bunch of German, Juliet, Dallas, you learned a bunch of French, and it sort of fell off. Use that limited mental energy to remember and memorize the high frequency words, and you can find those in high frequency dictionaries and also on the web, where you can get a core of about 600 or 700 words that are going to be wildly more useful to you than I can name all the fruits. That's just a parlor trick. To really be able to maneuver around in a world of a different language, you've got to be able to use all the different stuff. Additionally, we're
background noise as soon as I go to fix it, it disappears.
That's gonna be in the show notes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And another, if you're committed to learning the language more than being a tourist, I think the next step in that is learn those high frequency words and expressions, but learn them properly.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a tourist, fine. You can go around like with a really thick, not French or not the language you're trying to learn accent, and you can just say like, yeah, où est des toilettes?
Yeah, bonjour.
Yeah, bonjour. You can you're fine to go through like that, and you make an effort, and if the other person is listening is a respectable human being, you'll get by. But if you're trying to actually learn a language, focus on these high frequency words, and then learn them properly. Say them properly, because this is the problem you and I have this very, very different experience. With Arabic. You were like, boom, high frequency word, and I'm going to say it properly, and I'm going to practice saying this one word until I say it. And so now, let's say you have like a knowledge of, an immediate memorization of, let's say, 50 words, and maybe, let me think about it for a second, 100 words, but you say them properly. With me, I learned it in high school in Canada, and as much as my teacher tried not to like teach us like Quebecois, there's some slipped in there. Plus, pronunciation was more of a, you got close enough, kid. Yeah. So I come over here, and my accent isn't that great, and it bothers me because it's like I learned like Parisian French in high school, and my knowledge may have slipped since then, but my pronunciation stayed the same. And then I get over here, and it's like, no, you're not saying like anything properly because I wasn't taught how to say it properly. And to unlearn something is harder to learn it. So I have to like try to remember how to stress this word or whatever. And it's garbage, wasted effort, because it's like, I already know these words, but now I have to like, I'm like, no, une pomme, okay. And I have to like, have to go over it again. And it's like, the way I describe it is that, you're learning a language is like learning anything. Let's say you're learning a piano. You're like, okay, these are the keys, and your hand goes here. And you're like, okay. And you learn how to play like hot cross buns or Chopin or whatever.
I'm a big power guy there, buddy.
Well, Chopin did chopsticks.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Saved it.
Yeah. Come on. Anyway.
Come on. Get to this.
So, I mean, the problem is that now I feel like I'm at the stage where, I've done like 15 piano lessons, and I can play a song, but there's all these like weird notes.
Yeah.
It's like I have a sixth finger that doesn't know what to do, so it's like, so it's just like, so it's frustrating because I too am, a perfectionist. So it's like, and with French, I find, we'll get into this in a minute, but I find French is very particular with sound. I mean, I think it's probably less particular than most other languages, but English is so forgiving with it. You can come in with like a newfie, like an accent, and people are like, they may not know what you're saying, but they may not say, potato. But in French, potato means a potato, and potato means you're insane.
That's garbage. What are you saying?
Your family.
Yeah, like a word
farting out of your mouth.
Yeah, like we'll come back to that in a minute. So yeah.
That's also because you have such a great variety of accents. There's so many English speaking people in the world.
Oh yeah.
You have like the English people, American, Canadians, all the local accents like Texas, Newfoundland,
Jamaica.
Yeah.
Like you've got patois,
Irish people, everything.
Liverpudlian.
Yeah. So like I guess you had to like adapt to understand everyone.
With French, there's like maybe maybe like 4 or 5 accents. Maybe there's Alsatian, there's Parisian, there's the South,
North, South, and that's pretty much
Quebecois.
Yeah.
And then
you have Belgian too.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
So
it's not that different.
Less than 10, and there's probably more than 10 in like a 50-kilometer radius in England.
In Arabic, there's almost the divergence of accents are almost so wide as to be considered different languages to a degree. Like you've got MSA, which is Modern Standard Arabic, which is the sort of like hello, like it's the language learning tape of the language. Like I'm going to the store. I'm going to the store. Yeah. Anyway, And then you've got like Iraqi Arabic. So this plays in actually perfectly to your point. You want to have the appropriate words that you're learning. You want to have an emotional basis to your language. You want to begin with the language, with the words that are actually going to be useful to you, and not just parlor tricks, unless that's your goal. To just be like, I know fruits in 5 different languages. Yeah. Name all my fruits. You also need to speak it correctly. And you're completely right, Dallas and Juliet. And how do you do that? Well, if you speak somebody's language, they can understand you. But when you speak somebody's accent, they can hear you. You speak to their heart. Knowing the specific accent of a language can bring you a lot of power and access to that culture if you wish to travel in that culture. For instance, Dallas and Juliet, you're speaking together. You're learning each other's language. Juliet is learning a specific kind of Eastern Canadian accent, English accent, more or less. If you guys keep interacting and learning each other's particular dialect. And Dallas, you're learning this particular brand of Parisian French. It lends this credence and authenticity to the language you're speaking. And incidentally, I'm learning Egyptian Arabic, which is the city slicker language, or the city slicker dialect.
Metropolitan?
It's the metropolitan New Yorker. It's the language of movies. So you sound like a movie star. I just tied an invisible tie. So this actually ties into I had a bone to pick with I took a course that was how to teach ESL kids, and the professor, who's all these names, I won't say any names, but she was saying she fell into that kind of good enough ethos that Juliet, you were talking about, where your teacher would be like, oh, you said it good enough. Like, here's the gold. Actually, no, you mentioned it. Yeah. It's like, oh, you said it good enough. Whatever you said, like. Bonjour, like, okay, yeah, here's a check mark. And I had just finished reading this really great language learning book called Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner, and we can put that on the show notes, or you guys can just re-watch this 10 times. Actually, let's do that instead for views. And I was, and he talked about how, and this scares me too, because learning a language with the wrong accent is like worse than useless, because you have to unlearn what you have learned incorrectly, which is like walking downhill. It's like way, way more difficult to unlearn bad. Like, it doesn't leave your brain. Mm-hmm. You just get another neural network that is parallel to that, and you're using that one. So it's like, when I learned that, I'm like, ugh. So with something as ticklish as Arabic, I really like that. It gives me the hesitancy to just be doing like my own sort of flashcards by myself. Because what if I'm practicing these words all wrongly? Mm-hmm. So the professor was like, no. That's not important. Learning the accent isn't important. What's important is learning, all the grammatical structures and as many words as possible, and just getting out there and speaking. And that has power too, because you want to start playing the game of language and not just learning its rules, which I think is another huge stumbling block for early language learners. It's like going into soccer and just learning the rules for 6 months and not actually going out and playing the game, which is the fun part and the powerful part. So she was like, oh, yeah, you just got to learn this. And I'm like, that's wrong, but I'm being marked by you, so I'm going to shut up. Cut to, like, a couple months later, she mentioned off the cuff that she also teaches English to a bunch of adult language learners from mainland China. And what she had found is that those language learners enjoy getting taught English from other mainland Chinese English speakers who speak with kind of a Chinese accent on English. And that really got me thinking, because it's like when you learn a language like wrong-ish like that, you're kind of not really learning English. You're learning like Chinglish or Spen-English or Russian English. And you're not as easily understandable by native English speakers, but you are kind of better you're able to be better understood by other people from that culture who kind of have that Frankenstein approximation of that language. And it gets even crazier when you see in like English programs in Korea or some of the areas in East Asia where there's super Frankenstein mashups of both languages, where you can't even, like, they're using like full-on Korean words, Chinese words, full-on English words back and forth. So I say all that to say I would put, and I think we would agree to some effect, heavy importance on really, really getting the accent right. The only phrase that I learned when I went to France was
French Ranch. Yeah.
French Ranch. It's the greatest.
Local studios. Anyway.
It's slather it on everything. Je suis vraiment désolé. Je suis vraiment désolé. I'm very sorry.
True Canadian.
Yeah.
First thing you learn is
in true Canadian fashion, the first thing that I learned is I'm very, very sorry. But I knew if I said that and not je suis vraiment désolé. Je suis vraiment désolé. I can see you cringing, Juliet. How the difference that would make. Just like I feel like it, when a person of another language feels the effort that you're making to really speak to like contort your tongue and lips and throat into the exact flavor of the language that they're speaking, then their emotions get involved. Then they feel that connection, and you're able to sort of have, like I said, more access and power in that other culture.
So 2 quick things. One, I love when people have like what you would consider a traditional accent in their own language, and then a traditional accent in a very different language. So the most common that I've run into are Indians who have like they can speak Hindi or there's so many languages, dialects in India, I don't know any of them, but they can speak like Hindi, and to an English speaker you hear it and you're like, that sounds like what I imagine an Indian person sounds like. And then they turn around and they're like, well, actually, I studied at Oxford University for 5 years. And you're like, oh my God, like I didn't, and so that is always pretty funny. Secondly, I'd like to jump into what I will call the lightning round, which is where we go around and we make random complaints about the language that we're trying to learn.
Ooh, okay.
Based on our experience. So, let me think. I will start. First one, we talked about it before. Words that are just barely off of each other, or like the word without and the word blood, or the word without and the word holy sound similar to you if you're not used to it. It's sang ou sang, and if you say the wrong one, then the French are like, sorry, what? Like it doesn't make any sense. So pronunciation is very specific in French. That's my first complaint. Go.
I don't know.
Okay, go.
I sound like a terrorist when I speak. Go.
I can just add to your thing saying that even worse than what you said, the two words you just said themselves, they can mean like at least 2 or 3 different things. Yeah. So it's even worse. You also have the problem when a word is similar, but when the gender changes, it's a completely different word.
Like wall and blueberry or whatever. Blackberry. Yeah. Mur, le mur. Wait.
Le mur, la mur.
And the la is fruit.
La is the fruit, and le is the wall.
Is the wall. Yeah. Okay. Complain about English. Go.
I told you about that earlier, but when there's no way to know when there's an ea in a word following ea if you say ha or e.
Oh, like heaven
this
or...
This is horrible.
Like heaven... Okay, you got heaven and feather, which makes sense, but then you have like...
Heater.
Yeah, heater. Yeah, that's true.
This is terrible. Another thing, I had such a hard time...
What about heart? That's
heart.
It's even crazier.
See?
EA.
Oh my God.
There's no sound at all.
This is also a realization you make when you start hanging out with people that don't speak your language, that your language is weird and you just work every day with it and you don't even notice anymore words that are similar. You're like, for example, without and blood, I would never make the connection. Like these words have nothing in common, but they're exactly the same word.
Yeah.
And it's just so difficult.
So if
you realize so many things.
If you're without blood, it just sounds like you're repeating yourself.
Yeah, sang.
Yeah. I have a complaint for you about English, which is in English, hair is a single thing.
Yeah.
When you go to when you go into the bathroom and you run your fingers through your
hair,
the French run it through their hairs.
What?
I'm gonna go get my hair cut. I'm gonna go get my hair.
Your hair's cut? Why
because you don't just get one hair. It's just ridiculous. You have like millions of them.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
But like you have like if there's a hair in the sink. It's like. Or there are some hairs in the sink. Yeah. But it's like I shaved all my hair off today.
Yeah, this is very fascinating.
Same with I don't know. There's a few other ones. Go. What problem with
so
Arabic?
really, really crazy. You've got there's the vowels. Okay, so there's 3 vowels. There's yad, wow, and this is gonna be rough.
That probably sounds right.
So, long story short, there's like most Semitic languages, there's a diacritic system for assigning vowel sounds onto consonants. So you've got the consonant base.
Lightning round, Alex. Lightning round.
Okay. You have to put extra little doohickeys and hats on everything. You think French is difficult with the hats on all the letters? Arabic has a hat on like 80% of all the letters, and when in common Arabic in a newspaper, you don't have any of those. So I just have to imagine like
they don't put the accents in the newspaper.
Nope.
What, the printing press?
Oh my god!
You just assume. You assume in the same way in English, you just assume what the spelling is or what it's supposed to sound like. In Arabic, it's like beat like b-ert. And it's just like, well, what is it?
If you don't put the accent on a French word, then everybody's like, this is bullshit. I don't know what it says.
Yeah,
right?
Even though we don't put them most of the time on the capital letters. Like when you have something in all capitals, you don't have accents, and you're like...
Oh, that's true. Okay, I can't remember right now. Oh, okay. Specific complaint. Some words mean completely different things, even though they're the same word in French versus English. So the word conjure, to conjure.
Yes.
In English, what does to conjure mean?
To like summon up with dark magic.
To bring something to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In French, conjurer means to like keep something farthest away from you that you can.
Wow. And the really confusing one, deception.
Yeah.
In English, deception is like lies or like, you know, difference between what you see and what is true.
Yep. In
French, it means disappointment.
Deception means disappointment.
Yeah. So go. Problem with English.
One of the hardest, like I didn't have a lot of problems with the actual learning how to say words. It's not that difficult because we already have we have more sounds in French, so I just like need to put like
reduce it.
Yeah.
You need to handicap.
I don't need to enhance it.
You need to handicap your tongue.
But there's like the only sound we don't have in French is the, like th, but it's not like the. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
And even if you say the thing,
Yeah.
you understand. It's
Yeah.
fine. But the only problem I really have with the sound with like the word fill.
Oh yeah, you had a problem with fill for a while.
Yeah,
I can like fill the tank.
Yeah,
like,
feel the thing. Just feel it.
Yeah, she's like just feel it. Yeah. So can you feel this for me? I'd be like, sure.
Hold your hands and stroke it.
I hold the glass. And I'm like, why? Is it weird? Is there a bump or like what's going on? No, fill the glass. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why would you say? Fill.
That's one of the few times like. I don't know. I'm biased to think that French is harder to learn than English, but like, but that's a case where an English person would hear that and they would be. A lot of times I feel that like in terms of pronunciation, you can totally bastardize it, and the English will make fun of you and say like, which land are you from that we conquered? Yeah. But like, hashtag history. But all these white men are dangerous. Yeah. Pocahontas reference, but I feel that like most of the time you can get away with it, whereas in French you can't. But yeah, there are a few exceptions like fill or feel. There's a few other ones that I can't remember.
Feel,
right now.
because it's a very delicate balance between feel and fell. That is, at least for me, it was very tough to nail.
Yeah.
So.
As I've said before, French is a language of rules with few exceptions, and English is a language with many exceptions and a few rules. Like, I jump, I jumped, I'm jumping, I will jump.
I have jumped.
I eat, I ate, I have eaten.
Yeah.
Thought, think.
One fish, two fishes. One moose, two moose. One house, two houses.
Well, to be fair, I never say fishes or beers unless I'm talking about different kinds of the plural.
That's
so
fair.
someone's like, I'm going to go get some beers. What are you getting? Molson Canadian. No, you're getting some beer.
Some beer.
It's all the same. Anyway. Arabic problem.
The difference between s and s.
Ooh.
I'll run that by you again. The difference between s and s.
Okay.
The inspired air and expired air?
No, they're both expired, but there's one letter in the Arabic alphabet which is ayn, which is the quintessential If you've ever seen Sacha Baron Cohen's film the one where he's like the dictator, and he's like, I love the USA. He's playing that up for jokes, but that kind of like glottal, like constricting your throat, applies to several letters, and one of them is sod, which is different from sin. So you could say like musir and musir are two different words. They're not actual words, sorry, Arabic speakers. But the difference, and there's a few of those in there. There's one that's like the and va, and it's terrible to try to. And it also changes the sound of the entire word. So like muallim and muallim. Muallim isn't a word, but muallim is teacher, and that's really, really hard to do. It's really hard to learn.
Yeah, so if you said the other one, people would be like, what are you saying?
What are you saying?
You're not saying a word. Just
yeah, absolutely.
Like, anybody got any more last minute? Well, like, we got some more time to record, but for this lightning round.
It just reminds me, like, I also have a hard time reminding myself to pronounce all the H's in the words, like the letter H.
So,
because
right.
in French, like, for example, like helicopter, you say helicopter. If I say helicopter, you're like, what?
Oh,
yeah,
helicopter? Because in French we say hélicoptère. Every time there's a H, we just don't say it.
Yeah.
You would
hiver for winter and for hour.
You would have I don't know if you'd have difficulty, but I think a lot of French people would have a lot of difficulty in that realm with Arabic, because there's he and there's ha, which is like muhattit, where you go like apple is tufah, not tufah if it maybe be French, but tufah. And you have to have this really breathy H in there, and that's some extra difficult stuff right there.
Any last minute complaints other than that one?
No, it's just really, you know what? Every single plural, there's a thing in Arabic called broken plural. Every single plural has a different rule. There is no overarching rule for plural, like bait, house, buyut, houses.
Well, I mean, at least you're lucky that like nobody speaks that language.
Yeah.
So,
You just pretend.
It's a pretend language.
It's not like a sixth of the planet speaks it. So.
Yeah, no, they're all those terrible YouTube videos. They're all just faking it.
Yeah,
they're just throwing some sounds out
These
there.
people don't actually exist, you know.
Yeah, you might as well speak Klingon.
Yeah, you know, I tried to learn Klingon a little bit in high school.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's one phoneme. There's one consonant that's that. And you put air out of the sides of your tongue. You put the tongue to the roof of your mouth, and you squeeze air out the sides to go. And I still haven't heard a single language that uses that actual thing.
That's interesting.
So like, comment, and subscribe if you have a language that uses the phoneme like ratatata.
No. Nice. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I think the next thing is probably we're getting close to the hour. I think the next thing is to kind of wrap up with some suggestions as to how to learn our respective languages. I mean, we've given like some general advice, but like, and I've mentioned Duolingo, but maybe some specific reference point.
Absolutely. What, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Nothing very like astonishing about that, but obviously, like, the main advice I could give is practicing. And to practice, you should like find people or anyone with a consciousness that can actually speak and respond to you and point your mistakes to you. And also, do not take it personally every time. You will make thousands of mistakes, and of course it like hurts your ego a little more every time. I've been there. We've all been there, I think.
Yes.
But no, this is just the way it is, and you will. That's the way
it is.
That's the way you progress, and that's the way you make it better, and that's how you gain confidence in your things. And if you
No, go
please.
Go for
if you wanna go with little apps or website like Duolingo, just to cite this one, it is interesting, and it is it's nice because you can have like little daily reminders, even if you're not like into I don't want to do French. You still have this little thing like, hey, I forgot to do a French lesson today. It's stupid, but it helps when you're not that great at having like a regular scheduled little time for your lesson. And also, if you work with these apps, try to have something physical beside it, like a book or anything that can also help, because these apps don't teach you anything. They basically like testing you every time. Hoping that you will remember this specific word. Like, for example, if you have a lesson about like animals or about the future tense or anything, you're basically just gonna have to learn. Like they're showing you this word, like, what is this, and then they just assume that you know it, and they keep going.
Yeah.
But you really need, like, in my opinion, you really need like a book with like the principles, like the rules written, like when you speak English, you need to add an S at the third person. You need to see something, like to have like a frame of something
Yeah.
in which out of which you
I think
can evolve.
if Duolingo was
So-
to team up with, like, you know when you sometimes you watch a music video and it's the ones that have all the bubbles that tell you like all the
pop up video.
Yeah, it has all the fun fact, and like a little arrow will be like, see that the backup dancer fell right there. And
Hashtag 1992 Canada.
yeah, but like there are video like a lot of Blu-ray commentary discs will like pop up and be like, did you notice the like whatever?
Yeah.
That would be cool if they had that for Duolingo. Or if you get it wrong, you type in the wrong name for the animal. It's like, and it's like, actually the name you used is this, and the name this comes from the Latin for that. Like a little extra.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that doesn't exist. So sorry about that.
You can just find like kids book like when like learning French.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. And just like the grammar, I bought him like a grammar little text because French grammar is like terrible, even though it's nothing compared to other languages. But like even like when I was learning, like when I was 7 and I was learning all the conjugations and stuff, these books were so helpful. You hate them, but they're so helpful. And yeah, even like sometimes like I go and I check something because I'm not sure. And it's really like nice to have something that is physical that you can just pick up on your shelf and that has been verified by expert, that has been published by other people that verified it like again, and to be sure about something.
Yeah, I think it's great. The humility aspect is a really important one. I mean, years ago in university, I learned that it's better to be considered. It's better to be thought of as stupid than to actually be stupid.
Ooh.
So what I used to do.
Hard road, man.
Well,
it's a hard road.
It's just like, you're in university, you don't want to look dumb, and your professor asks a question, nobody answers because nobody wants to look wrong. And I started just answering questions, asking questions, and a lot of times at first I was wrong, or I was asking a question, but it was like, half the class is like, why would you ask that? That's so like elementary.
Yeah, they say that, but half of them actually don't know.
The other half were like,
And what ended up happening was, in that case, I became a much better student because the teacher would, example A, and everyone would know how to do example A. And I'd be like, what if you flip it? What if you turn it this way? What if this scenario? And then sure enough, when the exam came, it wasn't example A, it was example A flipped upside down. And none of the students knew really how to approach that. Learning French has been a very, I guess technically humiliating experience. An experience of humility because, I have never been wrong more often in my life than when I've been learning this language. But I have learned a lot, and I've learned a lot about my own language because I have to understand why is English this way, and I have to be like, oh, that's why it's this way in French because it's this way in English. So we stole it from you, or we influenced by whatever. So approach it that way. In terms of sources, probably a really practicing. There's with the age of the internet, there's a lot of resources available, but I would probably recommend viewing or reading or whatever French or the language you're interested, the media of the language. And I don't mean the news necessarily, but I've never read Calvin and Hobbes. I had only seen one or two comics on online posted, and oh, that's pretty funny. But for some reason, it was never in my local newspaper, so I never saw it. However, Juliette here, she has a copy of the anthology of the collection of Calvin and Hobbes in French. So I've been reading that very slowly, and it's a good intermediary because it's Calvin and Hobbes is a comic, so it's made for kids, but it's also made for adults because it's got some pretty witty commentary on rules of society and why should I be punished for this chore or whatever.
It's little pieces at a time.
And for you North Americans especially, I would definitely, we had this conversation yesterday, I would consider watching the news in French because there is not that much sensationalism over here in France. It's not tonight on CNN, random guy who says he's an expert says one thing, but female who's upset says another thing. No offense to anybody in either of those groups, but I feel that it's my opinion that a lot of the news that's being covered in North America right now, it's hard to watch. Whereas I find that a lot of the news that's being covered over here, it's more just a fact happened today. Interesting. Next topic. A different fact happened in a different location. Very cool. And now to the weather. So if you're looking for French advice and you're intermediary, maybe try checking out the news because it's a little easier to digest, even if you can't understand half of it right now. So.
Good stuff. I feel like the emotional piece has been spoken towards. Getting over your own ego, getting out there, making mistakes, take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Hashtag Frizzle. Yeah. I don't know why we're into the hashtags today, but I feel really hashtaggy today. So in sort of the physical website resource mode, I cannot recommend highly enough the book Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner. He's a polyglot. He came up as an opera singer, so he was forced to learn the proper pronunciation of German, Italian, Latin in order to sing those languages. And he just has a really, really interesting, really good read. It's not dry. It's extremely valuable stuff. Please Google the idea of a spaced repetition system, or SRS, and flashcards, because I can't think of a better way to sort of program in anything. Rhino Spike, Rhino like Spider-Man, Spike,
like the animal,
or like the animal. Yeah, that's a better reference than what I said. Extremely difficult reference. Yeah. Rhino Spike is a community of language learners that post up sort of requests for translations and recitations via microphone. So if you want, you buy tokens in order to make your own reference, things that you want translated. So, for instance, me as an English language learner, English speaker, Arabic language learner, I can go through Rhino Spike and I can say, this guy wants this text of English read in English. So I can record my voice reading that text, and I can put on my profile, I'm an English speaker, I'm male, and I speak with a Canadian accent. And I can go blah, 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 blah. And I did a few of these. It's really, really fun, because it's like the history of graffiti is a long and storied process. And then you post that, and they're like, oh, great job. And then you get a token. And then you can say, hey, what do these 18 words sound like in Egyptian Arabic? And I can post that. An Egyptian Arabic guy could be like that. And then you can make friends with people. So you know your own, like, oh, I like this translator a lot. He's helped me a lot. And you can sort of like come together like that. So Rhino Spike is really good. Forvo, Forvo, is a pronunciation database with over 60 languages in a variety of accents. You can put in, so what you want to do in your own, if your language doesn't use a Latin alphabet, you get up let's say if I wanted to learn some words in Arabic, I get a digital Arabic keyboard. They're they're readily available on Google. I type in the word I want, and I take that Arabic word and slap it into Forvo, and immediately I get 17 different pronunciations from people all over the world, geographically located. I can see where they are, and I can say, oh, it sounds like this, it sounds like that, and that will give me insight into how I can pronounce those bizarre words. Additionally, Anki, A-N-K-I, is a spaced repetition system digital flashcard program. It's for Apple and Android. It is super, super great. You can create your own decks of flashcards, and it has its own. If you don't want to learn about an SRS or make your own analog SRS, like in a shoebox or something like that, an SRS is basically like you learn a word, and then there's a bit of space before you see that word again. So it's like I learn a word like apple, and then there's a picture of the apple on the other side. If I can say it correctly, I put it into the 3-day box. 3 days later, I encounter that word again, apple. If I get it right, it goes into the 9-day box. And then and eventually, there's literally like a 3-month box where it's like, I haven't seen this word for 3 months. And then that's scientifically proven from a neuroscience perspective to increase remembering, to translate short-term memory into long-term memory. If you don't want to do that physically, analog-wise, you can do it digitally, and that does that all for you. All the SRS is programmed into it, so you only encounter the cards at the very moment you're about to forget. Additionally, it has audio tracks you can program in there. So you can have a picture of something, flip the card over digitally, and you have, let's say, maybe a downloaded pronunciation from Forvo, or a picture to be found on Google, and you can see all of that on Anki. I have not been sponsored by any of these people. So those are my websites. We'll put those in the show notes so you can watch the show 3 times for views. Please do that instead. And that's pretty much and I got all of those things from Fluent Forever. So if you don't want to listen to me anymore, get the book Fluent Forever of Gabriel Weiner. Super, super, super recommend it if you want to learn any language.
Nice. And last, I would probably recommend the easiest way for most of us in a pretty comfortable situation watching Netflix all the time, watch something that you're quite familiar with on Netflix and switch the language. If the language is available to you on Netflix, go for it. Put it in French subtitles. Put it in Italian dialogue if you can. It's not always available, but sometimes it is, and it can be really helpful. You know every word to the songs in like Disney movies, but do you know them in another language? So that might be an easy way for you to kind of like check it out and get started with it. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Definitely drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts.
And like it and subscribe.
Yeah, we're trying to reach out to you guys and see what you think. Anybody else here have any signing off?
If you haven't learned a language, I think this has been attacked at from multiple angles or spoken towards. Learning a second language is such an amazing thing. You see that people are like, when you see those like motivating things on the website, it's like you can travel the world, learn an instrument. It's always learn another language. It allows you to see your own language, your own culture like a mirror. It's literally like it's a journey, an intellectual and emotional journey like none other. It can give you this special power, this special access to this other world. It can open up doors for you, and it's fun, and it's just something that you confront your own ego towards. So it makes you a better person too. So if you haven't learned another language yet, or if you know two, learn another one. Learn Russian, learn Tagalog, learn Xhosa, which is a real language.
That's fine. I agree with everything you said.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching or listening. Bye now.
Bye.